Gaud de hit the cut you han, gunil cheese, wuchin yechi ne, hit yawa sick, we question cat. Ni nach sa gin cat cut clay dushu nach away uhan, we hana at high. Ya ka yuch a tangi dat yech tune yag. Hat ka yis ani kach ye hat yeti helt shugu a. Ach ye hat wutien we ach Tlein. Get that to Manhattan, you do a song about. Ket ach ye hat uti that gushuk jin ka winnets kanach away yandakin we yandakin yak at wudakin. Kesh hosatin yadach eitlini. Clegg. Gwell clecha winnets koa na ki de kukwa kuch chas Tlein ye ka hosatin. Yise kuke guchsa ye chateti. Ya chana gucha at ye kanduch ishji ya kukwa yawahi ye awa gwell ach Tlein ye awa yuchwasa kastu ani. Hastu hat has kuwatin. Gucha at kanduch ishji yes. Yet atsu we klekach inach uskuch eta you do a song. Yach e has yatitsu. Chas Tlein. Chanach we chas Tlein. Gwell chas Tlein kanach ginja chwan ani. Guchsa. Gusuchat. Guchsa e chatiti isakuke. Chwacha we utki. Kag kiji. Kag kiji away. Sa akuhini a kayeti. Yag away shukwa at aushayech. Achaway. Tesh okay. Chas. Guchsa. Guchsa. Achtosagu yisatini. Yeah, do. Oh. As Tlein. Yeah, do. As Tlein. Yag yeyeti. What kleka when it's a dache a to one ha chas kiji you do a sock da sachwacha chas kiji. Gosh, isiku yidet. Isiku ge. We shukwa chas kiji wudus e has to anikach.
Kusuwe, Yellowstone? From Manhattan.
Kech was a teen Kevin Costner. Kech was you. Kech was a teen young. Cos, you do a sock has to ani.
Niagara? You do
Cos Tlein, was Tlecha when it's Nakide. Tlech gachak was kiwi.
Buffalo.
Yeah,
Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo.
Away. Yeah, away. They say, I flew for 90 minutes. I can't see the ocean. There's a big waterfall. Across the big waterfall is Canada. There was little chicken wings that we ate that were spicy. And they were invented here.
Oh, you were in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, oh, what?
And then Niagara Falls, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Pretty close.
Yeah.
Girl said I need to go see. It's like, oh, well,
So that's why they're called buffalo wings, because
I didn't put it together because I was like,
I actually heard that there used to be a large bison herd that would actually go there, and that's why it was called Buffalo. It's kind of
name of the town, probably. And then yeah, so someone picked me up who works in Oneida, and he was like, what do you want to eat? I was like, I don't know, what's good? He's like, well, what kinds of food do you like? I was like, I've never been here before. He's like, then you got to have buffalo wings. I was like, oh yeah. Like, so we went to
Oh.
you know, this shukwa khas kiji with this with dutsi. The first buffalo wing was cooked here. So
You could have said Tatanka. We would have been, buffalo.
oh yeah. What we call it
Tatanka.
which
Yeah.
khas is waterfall. Khas is buffalo. Khas. Okay. All right. Thanks for I was sick. I was delayed. So I'm going to sheesh everybody for your patience. Anything on your mind? Language questions? Thing you've been thinking about? Just so you guys get a glimpse into the future. I was working on this thing today.
oh.
So speaking of dreams and nightmares, I don't know what it is. I think it's a dream. Just trying to figure out like some different ways to talk about conjugation prefixes and how they work. So to give you a sneak preview, you have 4 spots where things can appear. The most I think you'll get is 3, which is a future verb. So what I'm trying to show in this chart is on this left-hand side, this is specific to the verb's conjugation type. So like when we say it's a g conjugation verb or na conjugation verb, that means these things are going to be affected in these certain verb modes. Like if you're going to command someone, you're going to get those things popping up. A hortative is going to get those things, a potential or a habitual. Then there's this category over here where it says, well, these things can activate regardless of the conjugation type. So a future will always have ga, ga. It will always have those 3. So it's like when you turn them on in certain combinations, that's what you get. You get a future. Negatives will have this, progressives will have na built. And this is just dealing with the prefix. So these are in a certain spot in the prefix. You're going to learn how all of this stuff works. But this is what we're doing in advanced Lingít. But just to give you just a little sneak preview of what's coming. It's like, I really like students to know what all of these things are, and then to move into stories and talk about like how to find them and then how to use them. Fun stuff. Okay. So we were working on Kuhaantí, which I think we'll keep working on. And then we were working on the intro to the Lingít verb. And then I think we're getting ready to also look at direction and locational terms. So what do you folks want to do?
Hune, real quick, a question about the Kuhaantí story. For our midterm, you mentioned that we'll be translating that. Is there like a set due date of when we'll start translating that on our own time and how that kind of works like for submission?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we'll start doing is we'll sort of work through the story together. So we're getting used to translating, and we're collectively doing this so that you're not on your own staring at these big words. And then what we'll end up doing is we'll see kind of how far we get. Let's see which one so we were working on this one. We got 2 sentences in. And so what I would like to do is, this is a combination of a collaborative effort, and then you'll go on your own. So what I think what we'll do is we'll try and get we'll get up to maybe 5. And then I'll say, hey, when we come back to Tuesday, why don't you get to 10? And then we'll do it together. And then you can compare what you came up with to what we come up with together. And so I kind of like to do it that way instead of sort of examining what you've come up with, like, but we can have a dialogue about it. And if you say, oh, I thought it was this thing, and then we can talk about that. But since translation is sort of maybe a newer thing for some of us, I didn't want you to have to show your work in front of people, but I do want you to. So we'll do 3 of these, and then you'll get yourself up to 10, and we'll get up to 10 on Tuesday of next week.
Gonna sheesh. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So can I get a reader for sentence number 3?
Good reader.
Oh. Someone say you're going to read it?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, go ahead.
Gosh, you saw when so when
Okay, it was a little hard to hear you, but
yeah, I couldn't hear him either. I don't know.
yeah, gonna teach. So I'll go ahead and repeat it. Ya shat katsku sahan you do a sock away do in al the cut us away do nakas cow the eat. And can we find the verbs?
You do a sock.
Mhm. The others?
Which is they call me, right? This is what I'm called.
This is what she is called. So if it said you do a sock, that's what I am called, or that's what people call me.
Okay.
Cow to keep. Cow to keep.
Yes. And so for this one, we're gonna grab all of the stuff. Yeah, keep the chat open too. Okay. Yeah, oh, Haskell the gate and cheesh. Okay, so now we're gonna go everything except the verbs. Sahan is a name, so I'll give you that one. What about Ya Shad Katsku?
That
Uh,
The
girl.
little woman.
Adolescent girl. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
little
girl.
girl.
Teenage.
Yep, so Shad Katsku would be not a toddler, but also not a young adult.
A teenager.
Teenager. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tween.
but you get to Shad when you are once you get to puberty, then you're Shad. And for the same with you got Yadakwetsku, then once you get to puberty, you're Yadak.
Ah,
So we'll skip the verb for now, even though a lot of us probably know. We'll come back to it. It's just this is the technique that I want us to try. Is just find everything that's not a verb, then we come back, and that helps the verb also. It just helps it make sense too. What about doin al?
Her family.
Yes.
Took me a long time to find that because there's no period in the dictionary. It's a
Yes.
space.
So we have the next update to the dictionary will be changing some of these. So there are some words that we have. So like this one, you might see as khan'a is going to become khan'a. And then there's a few of them that are like that. And so this is one that's going to become in with the period. And so, yes, that's a good point. So like, as far as like, so the d part we should know as a singular there. It's a possessive or relational pronoun. And then Enoch is family. And we're usually talking like immediate nuclear family, basically. Because we have other words, but then some of those words start to involve clan relationships, like Aki or Takyan. They're probably specifically same clan as her. Okay. Any questions?
Just quick question on that. That include both clans because it's a father and a mother, right?
Yes. So usually this would be parents and siblings. Be Enoch. Okay. What about
grandparent?
usually not? Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good question. As far as I know, I don't think so. When I was asking the speakers about this, they were saying it was like a parents and their kids. The cut us away.
All of them?
All of them. Okay, so now this gets us to the verbs. So this one we should be pretty familiar. So we do have you do a sock, which if we were to sort of let's write this out, we have you 0 do yeah sock. Right. So this is the object pronoun. This is who's being called. This is the fourth person subject pronoun. People are doing it. So this means people repeatedly call them. So in the context of the sentence, this girl
It's called.
It's called Sahan.
and now
Her family, all of them went there.
well, so
Egg.
go ahead.
Oh, I just said no.
Oh, okay. So we have hus cow dick eat. So we can look up, let's look up the cow dick eat part. Because now that we've got a verb, that might be newer to us, to some of us. So let's see, let me open the verb dictionary to start there. So we're gonna go to the verb dictionary and we're gonna go look up eat. So up here, say table of contents, and get the English. And then we get, this is it right here, cow to eat. To all leave, to come or go, to move as a big group of people, or to die off, leaving few survivors. And so we could look up both, right? Look, if we've already been set up for this though, right? But if we think of, there's a song, right? And then the when we sing that song, okay. So when we sing that song, and some of us might know, so it goes Su he de shukach dutan. Ya ya kuske dakit ajik anakhaskau daki. So there's, we say Su he de shukach tutan. Ya ya kuske eight. And then you say G anak haskau de eat. So like some of us might know this song. Some of us maybe have sung it a bunch. And then we just sort of, we hear this translation, we'll again open this box of knowledge left in our care, right? Like, and that's an accurate translation, right? So you have Su again. This is a verb to, we are going to open a hinged thing. Could be a door, could be a box with a real heavy lid. It could be a suitcase that opens and is kind of hinged, right? So we will again open this hinged thing. The heyday part has to do with opening. And then yakuske decay. So yakuske is wisdom. It's a noun that's transformed from a verb. So it's a yakudzage. They are intelligent. Oops, this should be high tone. So ya with a million A's. Ducate is a container. It does come from the around, on, thing. That's how you get container. Ajik, residing or resting in our possession. Now we get this anak haskaudekit. So coming back, like it's a good idea when we look up a verb, like here's a verb, I don't know this verb. So I think one way to start internalizing it is we see it's listed as this says ST in parentheses, and anybody know what that tells us?
Subject transitive.
Well, it means stative in terms of how they document it. Nowadays, we would write it as object intransitive. So if you ever see ST in here, that means there's an object and only an object. So the way we would write this now would be O dash K dash D plus 0 dash root marker eat, right? So we will write it a little bit different today. But that's what, so when you see TR, you have object and subject. They have to be there. When you see IN, you have subject only, no object. And if you have IM, you have neither. There's no subject, there's no object. And so nowadays we're using these capital letters just to say, here it is, pick from one of those pronouns, right, if you want to use it. So we're going to look up leave, then we're going to look up die off, which is leaving would be better, but that's not the verb that we're looking at here. So here we see leave to desert someone, her husband left her, or their husband left them. And then here we have kaudekit. So if you just say that with no directional, they left. There's a directional on there. They all are coming down towards the beach, right? And we saw this yek earlier in the mosquito story, right? So on its own, it doesn't mean anything bad. It just means all the people went in a mass. That's what it has to do with moving all together. But then if we go to die off as an example, we will find, so here's die, which is wuna or gukana, pretending to die, to be dead of a tree, like a tree that's dead but still standing, which if it's a cottonwood, it's probably good for smoking fish. This it's a little bit rare. I don't hear that one very much. For their breath to run out. So here you see this built into the verb, which is breath or life. And then you have one at a time. They're all dying off one at a time. And then here's to die off in a mass. And the key here is this nuk part. So here you see ha nuk haskaudekit. They all died off, which if we go back to this, we see a nuk haskaudekit. Well, there's that nuk again. And then if we go back to Kuhaantí, we see do nuk haskaudekit. So this nuk, once it pops in there with kaudekit, it's like it becomes a metaphor for dying all at once, or for all dying off from this thing, right? Which brings, for me, it brings a lot more gravity to this story. When he made this speech, he's like, we're holding on, and in this speech, which we'll examine later, George Davis, Kitchnach from Angoon, keeps talking about how our hands are tired from holding on to this. But then he says, because of that, you haven't tied it. You haven't tied it for us. And he's talking to the kids over there, I think. He said, that is why we will open it again, this box of wisdom in our possession. They died off from it. Right, so he's talking about all these ancestors, all these people before. He was an old guy in the early 1980s. And he's talking about the stuff that he grew up seeing that he saw was being lost. So we're going to look at this nak word to make sure that we understand that one. So here, get back to the table of contents. So it's not a verb. So we're going to go to the Lingít section under N. And then we're going to go, just keep in mind the way that this dictionary is alphabetizing. It goes short, low, short, high, long, high. So we're going to scroll past these and we get nak. And it means to move away from it, or usually to leave it behind, right? So to like, I left my keys over there, right? So it doesn't always have a bad meaning. And you could say, like, let's say we're all like hanging out and then we all say, hey, we're going to dinner. It's like, all right, sounds good. But I'm taking too long to get ready. And I come down, everybody's gone. I'm like, and I call you up and they'll say, good. Bad that you left me behind. So it also means to just leave someone there, right? When we composed a song about suicide prevention, we said, we're not going to leave you behind. But so that's what it has. And so when you come back to this, they died off and left it behind. Then you come back to this example, they died off from us. Because you could say, and people will understand what you're saying. It doesn't, if they're not going to think your mother left and like abandoned you, but that could be the case. But if you just said that, especially if you said it sadly, people would assume that your mother had passed away. So coming back to the orphan, she is the duh right here. All of them died off from her. Right, so this is what it tells you, right? So like as we go through this story, the winter was very difficult. This big sickness came, a lot of people died. This girl, Sahan, her family, all of them died off from her. Who wants to read number 4? It's a lot more it's a more cheerful sentence.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Yashadka atsku sahan kunak tulian qal list ach.
Cheesh. Yashad katsku sahan kunak tulaan qal ach. Any verb phrases in here?
Tulian.
We'll grab kunach as a part of it.
Isaac.
Yeah. Geez, yeah. Okay. A lot of 2-verb sentences going on here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so we already know this girl. Sahan. Verb and verb. Okay, what about kunach tulaan? Do we know that one?
Isn't that like kind?
Kind. And what does the kunach do?
Really kind or very kind.
Yeah. What about shitzak?
I came up with hard working, but I'm not sure.
To up
Yeah, yeah. So we'll go look up tzak. And
Yeah, I
that
kept
is-
finding bony, which is sort of something for ambitious.
right. So tzak, bone. Bone is the root. I mean, the root is a noun. But a lot of times you'd say tlits'aqi if it's bony fish. And if you just said tlits'aq, most people would assume that means ambitious, hardworking. And so again, when we look it up here, whatever we see underlined for the verb that we find, we're not worried about bony right now, but we'll go look up ambitious, just so we can see it used in a sentence, right? This just helps to push this verb into our brain. They are really ambitious. Okay, so just in terms of like how we translate, I might say this girl, Sahan, she is really kind and hardworking. Any questions about any of those so far? Read that.
Xandor wants to take a screenshot of everything.
Oh,
Like, could you scroll up?
okay. Oh, of what? Of this?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody read it. If you haven't read yet, it's a great time to read.
Tleinachaweku to T.
Any verbs in there?
Ku to T.
Yeah. Tleinachawe kutzati.
Can you scroll it up a little bit?
Yeah, derige. Which way's up? Like that way or the other way?
The other way. I'm trying to see the first sentence so I can write it down. Finish change.
Ah. Okay, what is kleinach? Do we know what that word is?
Alone.
One person.
Yes. So this has two different meanings, right? And this is where context makes a big difference. Like that, as we learn a language, we learn about context and how it changes, right? So if you said, I want to go over there by myself, right? Or, sometimes people want to be alone. It's not always a bad thing, right? Like, there was a comedian who compared like a toddler saying, all by myself, like I did it all by myself. And then the sad song where she sings, all by myself, right? And so this could be either way. We get it from context. In this case, I would say it's alone. Because in the mosquito story, we saw that. Something like that. They went hunting by themselves. And then what do we get for the putzati?
Lived, existed.
Mm-hmm. And so like, this is a good verb to think about. Like whenever we see it, again, context drives how we might define it. So you could say, literally, one person exists. But in the context of the story, how might we translate that? Right, just thinking of what's already
One person was what?
It was alone.
she is alone. And that's what I would say, right? If I were to just sort of think about how the story flows. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, someone gets a nice long sentence. Yay for you. Who's the lucky person? Who's the lucky reader? Take a deep breath and read it.
Khataya.
Oh.
Yaka Shade Khanich due to Ani adach ya yawada kawasa ka ich dashi ach away atut ajiwatan away has to seek chunik nach satid.
Okay. Ya kashada hanich de tulla ani adach yawada kawasaka irdeshi a joy atut a jiwatan awe dutsik hunich nach satid. Which ones are verbs?
A lot of
Yeah, so we're starting to feel pretty good about ourselves. And now a big wave crashes over us. And we still feel good about ourselves. We got extra grammar on us.
Tushean. Yeah. Yahwada. Dashi. Ajiwatan.
So this one.
nachsatit.
In this case,
Nachsatit.
Tusha'ani is a noun.
Yeah.
Tusha'an comes from, this it would be like saying Dutlatsini. It's a noun, but it comes from a verb. So very easy to sort of see that. Ka'irdashi, there's a verb. We got to have a tut, a jiwatan. Got to have all of that. So I'm just grabbing the things where if you were to remove that, it would change it too much. And then
Nachsatit.
nachsatit, yeah, oh well. And then I guess I gotta grab this whole. Well, I guess I don't know. Maybe I'll just grab this part just for now. It's too orange otherwise. Okay. What is this first little piece? Anybody know that word? Kashat dahani.
Chief up on politics, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I looked up I guess the suffix, the hitch part. I don't know what I looked up was that's the chief is the subject of the transitive verb. That way the
That's
CH
correct.
is on there.
So
Okay.
so the reason why you get the CH here is because we just said a bunch of things about this girl named Sahan. So if we're going to switch the subject of the verb, so someone else is going to do it, like everything you say, we're just going to assume Sahan is doing something or being talked about. But now we're going to talk about what this leader is doing. So when I say this leader, and it's up to us what we do with this CH, right? We could say it was him, but in this, I probably wouldn't even put anything in there. But then if this is a case where I would assign maybe, because I know the story though, but you might say it was them, or there's different ways. When we get to the verb, we'll figure it out. But so we could also do this. Does the verb, right? So we know that the leader is the doer, whatever the verb is going to be. And what is dutasha'ani?
His kindness or their kindness.
Yeah, we'll stick with there for now, because then once we get the whole picture, we'll be able to kind of see dot for the verb. And so ka is and. What do we have after that?
And how?
How dot. What about achaway? Do we know this one?
Because
Yeah, because
of that.
of that. And then we can start with because of that. And if we come in later and feel like we need to change it to that is why, then we can. And those are saying very similar things. Then we got another verb. And then has to seek khuni.
The daughters clan relative or friends, right?
Okay. Dot, dot, dot. Okay. Yuck. A. So this, I think this is a good way to go about it, right? And we'll go one verb at a time. So adach yawadah. Anybody have any luck with that one? And also, I just want to say, if we're talking about something and we're just saying what this means because someone has looked it up, but if you have any questions about it, you can ask them in the chat. You can ask them here to say, how does this work? I was confused by this. I don't know what this thing is. Can you tell me more about this? There's lots of ways you can get more information about what we're seeing. Okay.
I can't. It flowed around.
Oh, adach yawah. So we could have flow, right? Let's go look up.
I think I came up with help, like how we would help anyone.
Well, we're going to get to help. We're doing adach yawadah.
Oh yeah, I'm after here. Okay, yeah.
So let's go. We're going to go look for some da verbs. And what we're looking for. Okay, so if we look at this, one of the things that we should also be practicing here. So if we just grab this verb itself, and we say, let's put it down here so I can work on it. So so here we have yawadah. So I can tell that there's a ya on it. And I can tell, and you'll get there. There's a y on it, and there's a ya on it. And then that's going to get us to da. Right? I know there's at least those things are in there. So if what I should be looking for in the verb dictionary probably looks like something like this. So you got to have ya, da. That's what I'm going to look for. Because you can ignore, this is a perfective marker. It's not going to be in that verb dictionary, but this is a perfective verb, yawa. We're just going to learn how to spot that. Yawa, kawa, awa, those types of things. We're going to learn how to spot that there's a perfective marker in there. So if we see yada, it doesn't have that extra ya on there. Kayada, no, kasada, yada, ya, da. Got them. All three components that we're looking for. Then here we've got figure out, someone, size them up, investigate and evaluate. And this also has da, right? So when we go in here, like translation shows us how to take these deep dives into these dictionaries and look this stuff up. And then again, if we see figure out as underlined, we're going to go look at it and see what kind of sentence is in there, just so that we can just internalize more of these verbs. So the goal here is just to keep remembering these verbs. So we got dudach kuyawada. They have observed them and figured them out as being good or bad. Adach wunada. Investigate it, figure it out. So I've seen this verb as well for someone to like, I gotta figure out where that water comes from. And then this would be it. So you have dudach kuyawada. Which is really, there's some interesting stuff in here. That wu is, if you have ya and it's a 0, you're gonna have wu for a command, but worry about that sometime. It's a funky thing, but it's there. So we'll go back to da and also just see what other things were here on it. So we have it says in, so we should expect a subject right there and no object.
Yep.
What's that? Okay. So if this just says the leader does it, their kindness, adach yawadah.
They figured out his kindness.
Yeah, like they maybe.
They and figured out doesn't really sound eloquent, does it?
Yeah, like
They.
So that's what he did, right? He was watching, he was expecting,
Observed.
I would probably say
Acknowledged.
observed. And then whose kindness do you think it is?
The girls, because it was mentioned in 2 sentences above.
Right? So we might switch that to her just to get have it make sense to us in English. And now we get to Ka'ich Dashi. Anybody find that one or recognize that one?
Yeah.
Say it again.
She helped people.
Yeah. And how she helps people. Okay. So just in terms of like this ich the she, we're gonna go look this one up in a different source. So now we're gonna go oh, maybe I don't have it open. So for this one, we're going to look in the database for this one. And when we look in the database for ich de she, we're going to go down to SH. So we go down to she, here's help, and we have, so this tells us a lot, right? N, eat, S, D, she. So there's a couple things to note here. This little tilde means that might be eat, but it might be ide, and it might be ich. Eat is something you're pretty commonly going to hear, but that suffix might change. This is the same. We're going to learn about these directional suffixes. We'll probably start tonight to talk about arriving at, going towards, going through, coming from, those types of things. There's a subject right there. There's no object here. We would write D plus 0 for the classifier. She. And then this N right here is a noun, which very commonly is going to be a relational pronoun. So if we open it up, we say, Ach ich she, help me. Sheshach ich it she, don't help me. We ach ich she, the one who helps me. We'll just do ach ide yandashin, they are helping me. Ach ich dashiyin, they used to help me. Ach it with the she, they helped me. Kesh ach it with the she, they didn't help me. Ach ide guch the she, they will help me. Kesh ach ide guch the she, they won't help me. Ach it qad the she, let them help me. Ach ich the she nuch, they always help me. Ach it, this one. Ach it ut the she, they help me every time. Kesh ach it ut the she, they haven't helped me yet. Kesh ade ach it qad the she, there's no way they could help me. Ach it qad the she, they would have helped me. Ach it the shini, when they help me or if they help. Ach ich the she. The last one is the one we have here. So we have she regularly helps people. So once you change the ach to ka, that's helping people. And it has this, the reason it has this little suffix is it's kind of, that little suffix is doing one of two things. It's usually saying that or when. Kind of depends on how it's being used. It's the same one we see with like ik satini. Kunchish achitidishi. Or achitidishi. Should go that way. Okay. So because of that, yeah, ask questions if you got them. We're going to take a break here in a second. This will be our last sentence of the night.
Actually, I do have a question on that.
Okay.
It's Probably not. I've got a repeated arriving at in my notes here.
Yeah.
Is that that's the on the E, right?
Yes.
And I guess I'm confused between the repeated and the habitual
Mhm.
and what that difference is.
Yes. So when we have the repetition, right? So we call it, when we have the repetitive form, it's like she does this regularly, right? So she regularly helps the people. But then if you were to say habitually, you'd say she helps the people every time. And then I would think, oh, anytime anybody needed something, she was right there, right? And so it's more like she's doing this, and so there's a pretty slight difference here. But I like to use like eating something, right? So if there's something in your regular rotation, like I eat spaghetti. We eat spaghetti in our house. Like probably once a week, we're eating spaghetti. But that's repetitive. That would be a repetitive imperfective form. But if every single night it's spaghetti, that's habitual. So that's the difference, where it's like every single time, right? And so that it really pushes that up pretty high. Ye na teach. It's always that way. You yatik. It's that way regularly. So it's a slight difference, but it is a difference. So this is like he's watching her, and she's kind, and she helps people. Yeah. What about a toot a jiwatan?
I don't know. I couldn't find a jiwatan, a toot. I kind of came up with arriving at the inside of, but I need to know what a jiwatan means.
Okay, yes. So we'll go look. Let's start in the verb dictionary. Let's look for a jiwatan and see what we find. So we're going to look for tan. And so coming back to like, okay, we did this ya ya da thing. What if we're looking for this one? What we're looking for is we should have, if we're looking in the verb dictionary, I would expect j, and I would expect ya, and I would expect tan. Oops. This is what I'm going to be looking for. Just those three things. And let's just see if we find it. And then we'll look in a couple of other sources and see if it shows up. So first, the verb dictionary. Go down to the T's, we go up to the A. So we get to tan. Tan is a verb root that has a million things under it. So once you find a tan verb, just take a deep breath and start scrolling. Same with T. T and tan are like, they're like the prom royalty. They just got tons and tons of verbs. So here, again, thinking of how they organize this, the way we talk about it today, they're going to go 0 classifier, S classifier, L classifier, SH classifier. Then they're going to start adding thematic prefixes. They're going to have ka, and then they're going to have, then they'll do the same thing. Ka 0, ka D plus 0, ka S, ka SH. So there's an order to it. So if you're looking for something like this, you keep scrolling, you're going to do ka, ya, tu, which are the three most common thematic prefixes. And then, oh, there's j. Oh, there's j, ya, tan. To take by the hand, to lead. Okay, well, maybe, but then we'll go look up take, right? Because we don't see anything else that really resembles that. We go into sh, and then ayatan. So we're just going to look up this one because we can see that's the verb I'm looking for, I think. So we'll see take by the hand. Then we might have to go look around some other places. Khat jikakwatan. They will take me by the hand and lead me there. Jikatan. Grab them by the hand, hold their hand, lead them by the hand. Okay. So the tan is a stick-like object, if you're wondering, and then the j is the hand. So it's like you're going to hold someone's hand and take them somewhere. Okay, so we kind of get the verb. So we might go into, I think we talked about this the other day. This big document does exist. Let me find it. Okay. So here's our big document. We're not scared of it. We're going to go to the bookmarks. We're going to go to the T, TA. We're going to go look for tan. We are going to have an awful lot of entries here. So one thing we could do is we could see, okay, tan goes way up, it goes way up. So here's where tan starts. And we just got to start. Usually it's going to do a similar thing. It's going to go tan with 0, start changing the classifier, then start adding thematic prefixes. So we just start scrolling through and looking down. We've got duatunk, kiatan, shuyatan, satan, tan, waduatan. And these are, if you want to like to scroll through and just see verbs, and it's like, this is interesting. But, we're looking for something. Anatan, akawatan, aguatan, wusa. Oh, there's siudak wusatan. Hey, there it is. Akawatan, ashaksatan, shukandatan, akawatan. So, we're not really, we're still in all these ka ones. There's a whole bunch of those. So we'll keep going. Kutana, akawatan, kaudatan, akawatan, shakatan, shaksatan. Keep going. Judzatan. Oh, that's kind of close. Maybe a cut. Judzatan. They signed their name. Oh, interesting. Jiwatunk, serving them. A jiwatan, took or led them by the hand. Well, we found it, but we didn't find, it doesn't have a toot in front of it, which is something we do need to understand this. So we can keep scrolling through here. I don't think we'll see it. But someone might have heard this verb and saw that it wasn't written down in anything, and might have put it in here. Putting it. Okay, so here's tan, but now we're looking for j. In this case, we're looking for object. So it's going to go O, J, S, 0, root mark, tan. Yan. Oh, there it's leading someone by the hand. Hey, look, that one says a toot in front of it. A toot, a jiwatan. They adopted them. So this is a verb that I was hearing people say, but that I wasn't saying. And so there was 2 ways that they could have said this. When I asked them about it, I think I might have led them towards this verb. And this is the verb that you would use if someone is, if you want to take them into your clan. A toot, a jiwatan. So this one, you could say, a toot chat jiwatan. They adopted me. They brought me into the clan. And that's why you say a toot inside of it. They led me inside of it. And so it's something I had heard it used very lovingly when people would talk about it. And they make them into a clan member. So another way is you could say, du yedich al sheyech. They made them into their own child, which would have worked for here. But this would be, they adopted her. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that we had this verb documented. And this is a good way to also compare how the verbs are documented in this dictionary, where the object is in blue, capital O, that shows you. Chat, ha, yi, or 0, or 0 or ha, or k, right? And then here's the subject marker right there. So I could say, atut ijachwatan, I adopted you. Or you could say, atut chat jiyatan, you adopted me. So now you could start to move the thing around and use it. If you were to sort of go back to Kuhaantí, it's a bit of a shortcut for you shortcutters. And if we copied a jiwatan, then we went back to this dictionary and we did, in the search window, we pasted it, it would also come up. So we could find it that way. You can't really do a Lingít text search in the story and Naish verb dictionary. So
Yeah, I wouldn't find it either. Like if I search for that, like I just tried searching for it, like a jiwatan in the dictionary, and it won't come up with anything unless you manually find it. Like you can't search for it.
Oh, really?
On mine anyway.
Oh, on yours? I could find it on mine. Huh, okay. Good cheese for letting me know.
I don't know why. I'll have to work on it. Maybe I got work on a different search facility here. I don't know.
Yeah, because well, you can use Adobe Acrobat, maybe. I'm using Preview, but these are good things to know. Okay, and because of that, so what about a tu to jiwatan, right? We have two third persons. We have a third person subject and third person object, right? That's obvious. But now through context, we should be able to figure out how to translate that. Who adopted whom?
The chief adopted his daughter's friend, which was
so moving it into English, we can, if we want to, assign pronouns to help us to understand. It helps our English brain to see. Right? But it's wild how Lingít does it, because it's like this leader, he did something, their kindness, it's around, they inspected, and how people towards or to repeatedly, they are helping, kind of instrumental, that is, it's inside, at, arriving, them, hand, they did take, that is, them all's is, daughter, friend, final verb, right? So it's really interesting because I think it's good to understand how Lingít works, but then through translation work, I think it helps our brain to see like how these things intersect, right? What is this last verb? Then we'll take our well-earned 5-minute break. So it has this underline X. And it has this part. Right.
That's, I came up with became.
Yes.
Hmm.
So I want to show you folks, there's a lot of advanced, this is a story for beginners and it's a story for children. But because it's Lingít, there's no easy routes, right? It's like if you just open like a little map software and be like, how do I get there? It's like, it's all windy roads. That's how you get there, right? Which is fine. We'll be just fine. But if we go down to the T verbs, which also has, we're in the million verb club now. We go from ton to T. That's a, so here we see ton with 29 verbs listed under it. We go down to T. Oh, there's only 13. It's not too bad. So if we go down
13 plus 19.
We're looking for city. So here we have N with this underline X, and this underline X says that's what the thing is or became, right? And so there's a whole bunch of phrases we can use with this, and we most commonly see it just like this, right? So you could say, you could say, that dog is a cat. So you could say stuff like that, right? Where this marker marks what the thing is. That's why you say yesh nach chatzati, chak nach chatzati. So we're going to go look at something that's called the hortative. And that means let it be that thing, right? So the Beatles, let it be, Yengati, right? Let it be that way, let it be the thing, let it exist. Yeah, it's like, what is it going to be? You got to give me some more specifics. But the let thing, that's where we get into hortatives. And Lingít, there's a specific sort of way. If you want to use hortative verbs, I would say look them up for now. We'll learn how to put them together. But there's this interesting thing with a hortative. If you take a hortative, which it's like a certain way to put a verb together, and it means let it, let me, let them, let it exist, right? Like that's a hortative. Let Lingít exist forever. It's a very powerful mode. You use a lot in prayer. Raven always uses these, and then things happen. But if you took this, and we're going to copy this, right, and say noun sati, and a hortative would be let them. So we'll put this right back into our orphan story. We're putting a lot in here. So in this case, you would say has du seek kunih nachsati. That would be let them be their daughter's friend or relative. If you add a T on here, and sometimes it's going to be a YIT, right? But if you just take a hortative form and you add a T, sometimes it's going to be YIT. In this case, the way they said it wasn't. This builds off of the hortative model, and what it says, so it could happen, right? So for example, I could say hat qua gut Lingít stu hus tu what. I came here so I could study Lingít. It is an advanced form. It's an advanced thing to do. But the advanced students, once they learn this, they really like it. And we were talking about this at dinner today, about sometimes you'll hear something and then you're tuned in and then you just start hearing that thing all over the place. Like just start going through stories and stuff. You'll see this mode pop up, and it means so it could happen. So what you end up with, you end up with the leader observed her kindness and how she helps people. And because of that, or that is why, right? I might say that is why, or whatever. Because of that, he adopted her so she could become their daughter's relative, friend, right? And what this is really saying, like there's a whole bunch you could pull out of this context too. He wanted his daughter to have a sister, and he saw how kind this girl was, and he took her in. And the gravity of this story, it's already set up with like all these people dying, this girl being alone, who's nice and kind. The reality is like this stuff didn't always happen. The life of someone who was orphaned, whose parents died when they were very young, for Tlingit people was very, very rough, unless someone took you in. And they didn't always do that. We do now. We should always take in the kids that need it. But that's what you've got here. So this we would recognize as sati, but nachsatit or nachsatiyit, so it could become that thing. Big stuff, big story, big steps. So we'll take some smaller steps here in a minute. Any questions before we take our break? Okay, take 5. And we're going to go 30 more minutes. Okay, Chishuhan, Konahuke Ejini, Kesachtuashku Kodachoi, a Kaudua Chuck Oya, Klidzi Retangi Tud, one Panin Zaktuasagu, Yaklezi at I don't want to focus, once we get to some of the harder things, like I want to go at it, but then step back a little bit and do something that's a little bit more manageable. So we're going to step back into little readings in Lingít, which has also some drills that are a little bit more manageable in terms of like just seeing consistent changes in a single verb without switching the verb through a whole bunch of different complicated modes. I think we did this one already. Did we do this one already? Oh, it also has the English on it too. So so just to focus also on this yes or no particle popping up right here, is that your daughter? So that akwe always refers to what's immediately before it. So you might say, isik akwe katakach, is that your daughter crying? But if you said, isik katakach, is your daughter crying? So then your focus is on the verb, not on the person. Okay, so that's how that's working. Dudushi qutwujahi, her cat ran away. Did we do this one already? Or did you folks do? So, okay. My son is mad. He didn't want to have his hair cut. Okay. Achtuasagu, ituasagu, dutuasagu, hatuasagu, yituasagu, hastituasagu, patuasagu. Can we translate these one at a time? Achtuasagu.
I am happy.
Well, that
I
would be
want.
tuwusagu, tuwasagu. Want it? I like it. Yes.
Like.
Yeah. Well. And someone else will take turns. Ituasagu.
You want it?
Want it?
Dutuasagu.
They singular want it.
Hatuasagu.
We want it.
Yituasagu.
Y'all want it?
Hastutuasagu.
They all want it.
Patuasagu.
People want it.
Yeah, well. Or it is wanted. Yeah, well. Teshach tua ushku, teshe tua ushku, teshtu tua ushku, tesha tua ushku, teshi tua ushku, teshastu tua ushku, teshka tua ushku. I didn't do all these one at a time like that, but then this is seeing the negative, right? So these are also technically two different verbs. You see, sigu, ushku, right? So once it changes classifier to the SH group, it's a different verb. But that's saying, I don't like it. You don't like it. They don't like it. We don't like it. Y'all don't like it. They all don't like it. People don't like it. So just a little bit of a recap. Ach, I, du, ha, yi, hastu, ka. The independent forms of these, chat, wa, hu, uhan, yuhan, has, ka. Just keeping that as we continue to see them. So remember that we got relationals on the left, independence on the right. Someone want to read this one for me?
Akwe duyadi alshat click aklak away.
Tish. Can we get a translation?
So your paternal aunt, is that your child or child you're carrying? Kind of just flailing here.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got the parts, right? And so this is exactly what we were just doing. It's like we translate it, but then we've got to rearrange it in our English brain, which is good practice because I do believe if you keep going that way, then it starts getting easier to go that way. So again,
Is that your paternal aunt, child carrying? Yeah. Is that your paternal aunt carrying her child?
yes, is that your paternal aunt carrying her child, right? So like, once we just do this a bunch, we start to see how that works, right? So it's asking, is that your paternal aunt? But then the rest is, it's just a given. It's just a statement at that point. But then we get their child they are holding. Like, oh, yeah, is that your aunt holding her child? Because that couldn't be just some random third person, right? Like it has to be just what we know. Like talk away.
No, that's my maternal aunt.
Yeah, away. So it just corrects the kinship term. Who hasn't read yet? Want to read this?
I can do that.
Please.
Ach, yeet away. Dude, lap asechan.
Yeah, away. Can we get a translation?
That's my child.
That's my, a little bit more specific though.
Son.
That's my son.
He loves his sister.
Loves his sister. So when I was doing this years ago, I wanted to just ruin this slide by changing it to like the brother and sister in Game of Thrones, which would be so terrible. And I didn't. So you can clearly see I didn't. I was tempted, but I didn't. It would just change the whole.
Yeah, Janae.
But and so we see here again, the third person, right? So that's my son. He loves his sister. Right? There's no gender in that, but we can, once we translate, we certainly can. Chasachan, isachan, asachan, tisachan, yisachan, has asachan, dutzachan. What do you think is going on here? How would we translate chasachan?
Love me.
I love me.
Let me give you
I
a big
love
hint. They are all going to end in them.
Oh,
They
okay.
love them. I love them.
I love them.
Yeah.
Isachan.
Oh, in the party.
You love them.
Asachan.
They love them.
Tusachan.
We love them.
Yisachan.
They all love them. You all love them.
Y'all love them. Ah.
Y'all.
Hasasachan.
They all love them.
Yeah. Dutzachan.
Someone loves them.
Mm-hmm. Or they are
People
loved.
love them.
So this is one, and sometimes we're going to get someone or people, or just like the verb happens. Kind of, it's another one of those contextual things. Like if you say,
someone loves them sounds derogatory. Like someone loves them.
I don't know. So yeah, I like, for this one, I like that, because if you say, I am loved. It literally, like, people love me, but I think that also sounds kind of weird. Because what it's really communicating is like, yeah, somebody does love you, right? Which, yeah, and again, like in English, like tone can determine that. Because you'd be like, someone loves you. That sounds nice, but someone loves you. That doesn't sound very nice.
And the classifier goes from a to z because it's that fourth person.
Yes. So if you have an S, an L, or an SH group, once you add de, it must be plus D. It just forces that to happen. Chatsachan, isachan, asachan, hasachan, yisachan, hasasachan, chusachan. So in this one, they will all start with they. Chatsachan.
They love me.
Love me.
Ye'oweh. Isachan.
They love you.
Ye'oweh. Asachan.
They love them.
Them.
Hasachan.
They love us.
Yisachan.
They love y'all.
Hasasachan.
They love
They
them all.
love them all.
Chusachan.
They love people.
Ye'oweh. Ye'oweh. So there's two of them with asterisks on here, because they can have multiple interpretations. Issa, if you have nothing in between, so there's no perfective marker, no futurist stuff, especially like these imperfectives with an object and a subject. Isachan can be, if we go back, you love them. And Isachan can also be, they love you. So you need to have some other words around it to help people figure that out. Similarly, Has Asachan could be, they love them all, they all love them, or they all love them all. Again, you just take care of it with extra words around it. I'm all loving this slideshow. Somebody read it.
Adu hasawe.
Do.
Oni awe.
Sheesh. Translation.
Who is that? That's my friends. That's my clansman.
Yeah, it was,
That's my friend, or that's my
Homies.
that's my like clan
Lost my-
and familial
yeah,
relationship.
my friends and my clan relatives, my homies.
Yeah.
And we see here, Huni has a relational marker. And then if you're going to pluralize it, that goes before the relational marker. Ach, hunke away. This is also plural. So adu has sawe. Who are they all? Like however we want to take care of the English. Who are thems? Who they? Who are they? I would maybe just amend this to say, who are they all? I don't know how to do it.
Who that?
Who that? Who they?
Oh, God, slang. Yeah.
Who hasn't read yet? Adusa kesh. Wait. Adusa kesh natuch.
I don't think I have.
Okay, cheesh.
Uchta usk achid skunde kakwagut.
Okay. Translation.
Well, he's brushing his teeth, so
And then went to
That's
bed.
easy.
It sure does help, right?
Okay. My child. What's he doing? My child.
So
brushing his teeth.
there's two
My
ways
son.
to something like this, right? So you could also say, this goes long now. You could go like that. Usk achid. This separates the body part from the verb itself. It's just a different way to do the same thing. I could tell my kids, I can also say, I could say, so what this does is it builds it right into the verb. So you could, like we talked about, this thematic prefix is what we call it, which is just a fancy way to say you could put a noun on a verb. So if you said, so if we just took this, and we say, okay, they're brushing their teeth. What about that?
They're brushing
They're not brushing now.
or they're cleaning,
What are they washing?
washing.
But what are they washing?
Oh, face.
They're washing their face. What about this?
Washing
They're
hands.
washing their hands.
Yeah. Well. And so, you know, that is
Dada. They're watching daddy. No, no.
Washing around.
Dada.
there is data in there, but they're washing their body, right? So my son is brushing his teeth. And it's washing. You just say washing, but we'll translate it as brushing. But just so that we know how the verb works, it's washing a body part. It's what this whole verb is doing. What about the second part?
He's going to go to
He's
school.
going to school.
It's gonna go to school, right? So we got a future, we put a directional on there. Now we've got a pattern. Shkunde kakwagut. Hunda kahiti de kakwagut. Do at hiti de kakwagut. Now our son can go anywhere. Who hasn't read yet?
I'll go.
Sheesh.
Shaka ye akash ankade kawagut.
Sheesh. Shakasyek achkash on kadik kwagut. And translation.
She combed her hair.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my hair. And nibbling.
And nibbling's gender neutral for sibling.
Nibbling. That's okay. Nibbling.
Or nephew, niece. Nephew, niece.
Yes. And this does also tell you what?
Niece, nephew. Sheesh.
Same clan.
Almost.
Maternal. Oh.
Opposite. So you have Keshk, same clan. Kosh, opposite clan. And what the second sentence?
She's going to go to town.
Going to town. Yeah, it's time to go to town. Yeah, away. Yeah, away. Yes, my niece is combing her hair. The last thing we're going to do is look up this verb. So if we're going to look up this verb has closed. This is an open verb that has closed. So if we show you what's under the hood, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to go sha, ka. It should be 0, s, ya. So there are some verbs that, and we've talked about this a little bit, I think. Some of them, they put a T on the end to say, this is something that happens. It's a whole bunch of little things that make up a single action. And combing your hair is one of those things. But it gets the K ending instead of the T ending. Somebody else might have done the research to know why. You just have to, I just try to remember. Oh, this one gets a K. This one gets a T. So if we go to just look it up, so we'll go look up ya. And we'll go up here. And we got right there. Tells us it's intransitive, subject only, sha, ka, zi, ya. And then we'll just go look it up just to see. So now we go to see, go down to comb, Dutin Shakautzia. They combed their hair with a comb. Shakautzia. I combed my hair. We can also find, like, if we wanted to just learn more about it, and go into the database, go down to Ya. I think we're gonna get here. Oh no, maybe we don't have this one in here. Okay.
Kind of surprised no one's had a side hustle or side thing of trying to combine all three of those resources, like the handbook, the Eggleston, and the handwritten Lear. It seems like just jumping between them all the time.
It is happening slowly with this one, but it's a big process. And so
It's a huge, yeah.
Because
Huge.
you have to code so much stuff into here to get it to look like this. And I do think it's in, is it in here?
Like a good master's project or a PhD, I guess.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, combing hair is going to have to be added here. Because I know it's qa conjugation. Because sometimes I'll wake up and I'll say, I'm not combing my hair today. So maybe for me, that'll be Saturday. I gotta comb my hair tomorrow. So any questions or thoughts before we go?
Click.
Okay.
No, get some sleep. It's like probably midnight jet lag time for you.
11:30. Jeez. Stuka naidihin stikat yuhan. Panachoy gachidlak yahayu katangi. Gwaskeshi saku wasa etut ayakatuachak. Ade awe yukadutle atgiye yahayu katangi team. Tachonachich adutletzin stikat yuhan. Chachosaku tletzin awe yituyeti. Achoy in kachoniki go ayachwan. Igo ayachwan. Yende ya yantutlak yahayu katangi. Ya ade awe adate ji ni ye. Ya hatte chant isani hast du ide gachideshi. Kashtika hadati konachi ide. Whenever we do like a week of kind of more difficult stuff, it's just a good time to just pump up the gang and just say, you could do it. You are doing it. You might not even realize the incredible amount of language that's building up inside of you. You have strength inside of you. And the way that you all are working right now is helping our future generations. I'm grateful for it. Cheesh.
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 Yeah.